A warm welcome to all of you who have chosen to tune in today. The focus of this reflection is on the Gospel according to Luke for the first Sunday of Advent. Jesus said to his disciples, "There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth nations will be in dismay, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will die of fright, in anticipation of what is coming upon the world. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But when these signs begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, because your redemption is at hand. Beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness and the anxieties of daily life, and that they catch you by surprise like a trap. For that day will assault everyone who lives on the face of the earth. Be vigilant at all times and pray that you have the strength to escape the tribulations that are imminent and to stand before the Son of Man." Advent is the great season of hope and a season that has a twofold character, short-term and long-term. Short-term Advent is a season to prepare for Christmas when Christ's first coming to us is remembered. Advent is a time to decide how to prepare a place for Him. Long-term Advent is a season when remembering and celebrating Christ's first coming directs our mind and heart to await His second coming at the end of time. This is by no means something to fear, but rather a time of anticipation. Advent is thus a period of devout and joyful anticipation and expectation. With Advent, we are reminded again that Christ came, He died for us, and will come again, although we don't know when He will come again. And so it is important for us to be ready. Emphasis on the word ready. And with this reflection, I want to offer a formula as a way to get ready. And the formula is as follows. Read plus roots plus road plus reflect. We sum those up, it will give us ready. So if we read the gospel, deepen our prayer life or roots, watch the road, and reflect on the gospel, all combined will bring us to ready. And now I'll try to explain what is involved with this formula. Read the gospel and take note of the words, especially the apocalyptic language that definitely can make an impression. And the words that we key on will probably be different for each of us. In the first part of the gospel for today, Jesus describes some very vivid scenes with words that evoke dismay, fear, and anxiety. Jesus tells his disciples that there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on earth nations will be in dismay. People will die of fright. The powers of the heavens will be shaken. The Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Stand erect and raise your heads, because what is coming is the Son of Man, Jesus, and redemption. More references are made to the end times that were seen in the earlier Gospels. Remember that the day and the hours for this second coming is known only to the Father. And so with that in mind, what are we to do in order to be ready for this? Well, my suggestion is to be guided by the formula just mentioned, and in addition to reading the gospel, become more deeply rooted in prayer, watch the road carefully as we continue on our faith journey, and reflect on ways to live and share the gospel. And to help focus our efforts, I want to share two very short stories. The first story is regarding the roots part of the formula. Farmers hope for lots of rain right after they plant their corn. Once the corn sprouts and gets a good start, they then hope for a dry period. And the reason for this is to focus and force the corn's roots to grow downward in search of water rather than to stay on the surface. Because unless the taproot of the corn grows downward to the water level, the corn will wither and die when the heat of the summer sets in, and it will have no way to draw up water. Our prayer life is like that. God usually gives us a good start, then God lets a dry period set in to force our prayer roots to grow downward to the faith level rather than to stay on the surface at the feeling level. We need to focus on our prayer life. Remember that prayer is the opening of our minds and hearts to God, speaking to Him and listening to Him, thereby having a back and forth conversation with Him, will deepen the roots of our prayer life. Moving on to the road part of the formula, Advent is a time for us to watch the road of our faith journey and the road that our lives are taking on our faith journey. Several years ago, a bus driver in Pennsylvania reached an unusual record. Over a 23-year period, he drove a bus over 900,000 miles without a single accident. I think this is a remarkable record. And when he was asked how he did this, he gave a simple 3-word reply, which was, watch the road. We need to follow the advice and the experience of this bus driver and watch the road or path that we take on our faith journey and be prepared to make choices that will bring us into a closer relationship with Jesus. This is important. It's important because on our journey, we can become distracted and lose our way when our hearts become drowsy, and we then can fall asleep at the wheel. This happens when we put too much focus on the short term, that is, the wants and needs that we may have for the next few minutes, the next few hours, or the next few days. And it happens when we don't put enough focus on the long term by celebrating Christ's first coming and anticipating His second coming at the end of time. So now with reed, roots, and road in mind, it's time to look at reflect and what's involved with reflecting on this gospel. In particular, we can look at the second part of this gospel because it provides some food for thought, and it also provides direction for our journey and prompts the following questions. The first question, are we intoxicated with the pursuit of pleasure, power, and material goods and the anxieties that accompany the effort to maintain them? Second question, are we distracted and burdened by those anxieties of life and anxieties of daily living? For example, going to work, taking care of our children, and maybe even adding aging parents to that mix, mowing the lawn, taking care of our homes, making meals, doing dishes, paying bills, repairing or getting our cars inspected and repaired, making sure our financial affairs are in order. These are just some of the things that would cause anxiety in our daily lives, and I'm sure that you can add to that list. And yes, it's easy for us to become wrapped up thinking about all of these and other things that can burden our hearts and cause us to overlook the realities of the spiritual life, the realities of our prayer life, and being loving, compassionate, and forgiving to others in our life? Or, as an alternative, do we try to pay attention to the signs of God's Advent presence and love in our lives, and thereby stand erect and raise our heads? And in doing so, do we try to focus more on our spiritual life, focus more on prayer and love, compassion, and forgiveness? I suggest that we find a quiet place, take some time to reflect on these questions, and may they stimulate our thinking, may they enhance our anticipation of and preparation for Christmas, when Christ's first coming to us is remembered, and may they also direct our mind and heart to await his second coming in joyful anticipation at the end of time. And so, to summarize, when we combine reading the Gospels during Advent, trying to deepen the roots of our prayer life, watching the road on our faith journey, and reflecting on and living the Gospels, when we do those things, it will help us to be ready for the end whenever it takes place. And may God bless each and every one of our efforts to be ready, and may they lead us to a fruitful Advent journey. God bless you.